You're sitting at your desk, or maybe your hot desk, or that long communal table where you can see 30 other people from where you're standing. You've got your noise-canceling headphones on, you've closed every tab except the one you need, and still, you can't focus. Somewhere along the way, we decided that the buildings we live and work in should look like the inside of a spaceship. Clean lines, glass walls, open floor plans, minimalist everything. It looks great in an Instagram post. But here's the thing. That minimalist, open plan, glass and steel aesthetic might be quietly destroying your ability to focus, and the science is finally catching up.
Let's start with the biggest offender, the open plan office. Open plan offices exploded because of one simple idea. Take down the walls and people will collaborate more. Creativity will flow. Innovation will happen. Sounds great, right? Except that's not what happens at all. In fact, one study found that employees in open plan offices spend 73% less time in face-to-face interactions, but their email and messaging use shot up by over 67%.
The design meant to bring us together actually made us hide behind screens. And the distraction problem is even worse. According to a Gensler survey, more than 2/3 of U.S. employees are unhappy with noise levels at work, and 53% say other people actively disturb them when they try to focus.
Background speech, just overhearing other people's conversations, is the most serious noise problem in open plan offices. And it's not just annoying, it's actively damaging your cognitive performance. Studies show that exposure to irrelevant speech in open offices negatively impacts working memory. Your brain is constantly trying to filter out conversations it doesn't need to hear. That takes cognitive energy, real energy that should be going toward your actual work.
One report found that 63% of workers struggle with concentration due to workplace noise. And this constant disruption leads to mental fatigue, decreased productivity, and a sense of frustration. There's a reason you see so many people wearing giant noise-canceling headphones in open offices. We're all building our own invisible walls because the building refused to give us real ones.
Okay, so open offices are bad. But what about all those gorgeous minimalist spaces we see everywhere? The ones with the white walls, the gray everything, the clean aesthetic? Minimalism in architecture promises clarity, calm, a kind of visual silence. And to be fair, research does show that minimalist layouts can reduce stress in some contexts. One study found stress reduction of 22 to 35% in certain minimalist spaces. But here's the problem. What we call minimalism in modern architecture has often become something else entirely: sensory deprivation dressed up as design. Environmental psychologist Colin Ellard ran an experiment on how building facades affect people walking by. He found that the monolithic, dull facades found on modern skyscrapers and apartment blocks actually cause stress to passersby and inhabitants. The cumulative effects of being around such buildings extremely damaging. Our brains evolved to process rich, complex environments. Think about it. A Gothic cathedral has thousands of details for your eyes to explore. A glass and steel box? Your brain processes it in about 2 seconds, and then nothing. No stimulation, no engagement, just a kind of visual emptiness. Here's the counterintuitive part. Understimulation can be just as stressful as overstimulation. When your environment gives your brain nothing to work with, it doesn't relax, it gets anxious. Research on neuroarchitecture, yes, that's a real field, has found that rectangular environments actually induce negative emotional responses, while spaces with curved geometry promote well-being and creativity. So all those boxy, glassy, aggressively rectangular buildings we're surrounded by, they're literally making us feel worse. Here's where it gets really interesting, and a little bit scary. There's a field called neuroarchitecture. It looks at how built environments actually change our brains, and the findings are wild.
We spend around 90% of our lives inside buildings. And because the human brain is neuroplastic, meaning it changes in response to its environment, architecture has essentially taken on nature's role in shaping our brains. Architecture is now the primary architect of the human brain. Evidence shows that prolonged time spent indoors is linked to poorer cognitive function and higher depressive symptoms, which suggests a decline in neurogenesis, the growth of new brain cells. In cities, brain volume is actually sustained through things like tree cover density and sky visibility, the remaining traces of nature. Think about that. Your brain needs certain environmental inputs to stay healthy. And modern architecture, with its sealed windows, artificial lighting, and sterile surfaces, is often giving you the exact opposite. It's not that modern buildings are intentionally harmful. It's that we designed them without understanding how human brains actually work. We prioritized cost, efficiency, and aesthetics over cognition, and we're paying the price. Modern architecture often creates this bizarre paradox. It's both too much and not enough at the same time. On one hand, you've got sensory overload, the visual chaos of an open office, constant background noise, harsh fluorescent lighting, reflective surfaces everywhere. All of this overstimulates your nervous system. On the other hand, you've got sensory deprivation, those sterile, white, featureless spaces that give your brain absolutely nothing to engage with. So, what does all this actually cost us? For starters, we know that open-plan offices drastically reduce real human interaction. You might think you're collaborating more, but the data says you're emailing more and talking less. Workplace performance has dropped 6% since 2008, driven largely by the inability to focus. On average, workers are distracted every 11 minutes. This isn't just opinion. There's a growing body of research making this crystal clear. A review of neuroarchitecture research found that architectural design significantly influences emotional and cognitive states. The spaces we occupy literally shape how we think and feel. Even something as simple as ceiling height matters. Higher ceilings encourage free, abstract thinking. Lower ceilings increase focus. So if you're in a cavernous open office trying to do detailed work, your brain is in the wrong mode. Okay, so this all sounds pretty grim, but here's the good news. We can fix this. There's a concept called biophilic design, designing buildings that connect people to nature, and the research on it is incredibly promising. Studies show that integrating natural elements into workspaces reduces stress, improves cognitive performance, and helps restore attention. Even something as simple as having plants in your office can make a measurable difference. So the next time you can't focus, the next time you feel drained in the middle of the day, the next time you're staring blankly at your screen, wondering why you can't get anything done, we've spent decades building environments that look futuristic but feel wrong. Spaces that look great in photos, but leave our brains starved, stressed, and scattered. But we can do better. We have the science. We know what works. Now we just need the will to build differently. Because here's the thing. We spend 90% of our lives indoors. That means, for most of us, the built environment is the environment. If we want to think clearly, feel better, and actually get things done, it's time we started designing for the brain that's living in those buildings. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, hit that subscribe button. And let me know in the comments, what's the worst design space you've ever tried to work in? See you in the next one.